We live in the age of blockbuster movies. Oh wait, it always has been the age of blockbuster movies. Be it a Wild West tale, a cop story, superhero movie, or even cars jumping cliffs. Blockbusters always dominate the box office, and sure, blockbusters can be really entertaining and sometimes even great. But are they all that we need? Do we want something different, something unique perhaps? If yes, what would that different and unique look like? I believe the new feature The Vast of Night presents a case for what a great anti-blockbuster is, and why we might want to have more of the films like this. I am Mr. Feature, and without further ado, let's delve in. So first things first, what is a blockbuster? Well, intuitively, we do know the concept of a blockbuster, but the objective definitions of this term do vary. The consensus, however, would be that movies that are so-called blockbusters normally have to tick the following four boxes to fall under this category. Number 1, the movie must aim at mass consumption, in other words, appeal to the majority of viewers. Number 2, has to star big actors, quite often recognizable action stars. These throughout generations were, for example, Paul Newman, Steve McQueen, James Dean, Jon Voight, Bruce Willis, Mel Gibson, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Nicolas Cage, and many more. Nowadays, best example would be The Rock, but also Ryan Reynolds, Tom Cruise, and so on. This is of course done to fulfill the first point, to gather all the fans of these action stars and thus appeal to the majority of the viewers. Number 3 is the film is normally accompanied by some merchandising, either before, if it's based on an existing IP like Harry Potter or Hunger Games, or after the release, like Star Wars. But sometimes blockbusters don't tick this box, and more on that in just a bit. Finally, and most importantly, number 4, very large budgets. Anything above $80–100 million, but in some cases even less. Fun fact, did you know that the word blockbuster was a nickname for a bomb developed during World War II? The bomb would literally bust their blocks. Well, the more you know.
Okay.
Anyway, here we establish the 4 horsemen of a blockbuster: big budget, mass audience, big stars, merchandise support. So Hollywood studios' number 1 goal is to make as many quality blockbusters as possible, at least as good as would bring the biggest amount of bucks. And yes, sometimes we may feel like all that Hollywood does is those blockbusters, but that's not true. It seems like that only because blockbuster movies are the most popular ones, make the most noise, and thus attract most of the attention. There are literally thousands of movies released every year in North America, and only about 30 of them can be considered true blockbusters. What is also important to clarify is that there are some blockbuster movies that do not tick all 4 boxes. For example, Fast and Furious is aimed at mass consumption, has very big budget and big stars, but it doesn't have merch support. Although arguably they have started building a cinematic universe, much like Star Wars, with the likes of Hobbs and Shaw paving the way to spin-offs. Maybe one day we will get a prequel where 5-year-old Dom Toretto is racing on tricycles? Let me know what the title of this movie would be in the comments, please. But Harry Potter would be a perfect example that satisfies all 4 criteria, and so does Mission Impossible. Although there is no merch, it's technically based on a TV series that existed before, thus a pre-existing IP, and is not considered to be truly original. And yes, of course, while most of the blockbusters movies are not really all that great, looking at you Fast and Furious and DC Universe, there are some that may be considered the best movies of all time. Well, for example, Lord of the Rings franchise, which is technically a blockbuster franchise. So while Hollywood puts most effort into blockbusters or almost blockbusters movies, I notice a massive lack of what I call a good anti-blockbuster movie. Meaning a movie with a tiny budget, without any merch or primary source support, no big stars, even those you might recognize but not remember the name, like the guy from The Dark Knight. God, I swear he's like in every movie. What's his name? Was it Fletcher something? Jesus. Nor a movie aimed at a mass audience. So technically we are talking about art house, but maybe even more subjective than that. There are certainly some examples of such movies that come out every now and then. Cosmos, Blue Ruin. Both are quite good actually, but rarely do I see something that would be truly masterful. And normally if they do come around, they are done in a genre of drama, maybe sometimes thriller or even comedy, which is of course perfectly fine. But there is something you should know about me. I'm a sucker for sci-fi, and especially sci-fi that takes us to the endless imagination of space and cosmos. And with all of the things that I just talked about in mind, this is why The Vast of Night made such an incredible and lasting impression on me. I do believe this movie is an anti-blockbuster in its core, which presents a refreshing, inspiring, and stupendous take on the sci-fi horror medium. Basically, the film is done by amateurs with no famous actors, almost no budget, lack of any merchandising opportunity, and it definitely does not appeal to the mass audience. Let's break down what makes this movie so unique, great and why it's important to have anti-blockbusters like this. Before we dissect, what the hell is this movie even about? Well, it takes place over one mysterious night in Texas, USA, in the 1950s, in the prime era of the UFO paranoia. The two protagonists intercept a mysterious radio signal which results in a chain of no less mysterious and eerie conversations with different strangers. That should be enough. Let's crack on. What I really didn't expect from a movie like this is such a natural and great acting. I mean, of course, indie movie actors are trying their best to pave their way for Hollywood careers, but often that results in an extremely unbalanced performance in comparison with the supporting cast who don't give two shits about the movie they're in, or sometimes the actors that would just simply overact. But in this movie, everyone was acting in an extremely natural yet captivating manner. Especially the two main leads, Sierra McCormick and Jake Horowitz, both transmitted the emotional terror yet curiosity, the desire to get to the bottom of truth despite the worry about the consequences of this investigation is definitely something you would want to look at all day long. Every time each of them was on screen, I just couldn't stop watching. I think no doubt each of them will have a big career after this outing, but what especially enabled each star of this movie to shine is the cinematography, especially the fact how simple yet brilliant it is. For example, what I mean is, there are two shots that are my absolute favorite in this movie. The first one is a long take that lasts about 10 minutes in the movie, where the character of Sierra intercepts the signal and starts to receive calls from strangers reporting a flying object over their properties. Not only in this long take Sierra had to manage the soundboard in a right way, but she acted the absolute living shit out of the scene. Not once did she stumble or let go of her act. This might have been the most intense 10 minutes of the whole movie for me. Of course, such technical shot is brilliant because it's so simple. It's an elegant solution to a small budget film. I mean, think about it. The less takes you do, the less money you have to spend on editing, filming, putting the scene together. It's brilliant, honestly, and it totally paid off in this case. The second scene is also a long take. Forgive me, I'm a sucker for long takes, I know. That lasts also about 10 minutes, but this time the shot takes us through half of the town, goes inside the building, which looks like a local gym, and does a 360 inside a full gym court while the basketball game is in the process. What the fuck? I literally watched this scene 4 times in a row. It's fucking perfect. It's spotless, impenetrable. It's a bloody trademark of how exciting long takes should be. No joke, I don't remember the last time I saw something like this before. And remember how I said about simplicity in this movie? Well, you will call me a liar, but this shot was filmed by a boy who was riding around town on a go-kart with camera attached to the front. Absolutely insane! I applaud the cinematographer and the director of this movie. But this shot is not only great because of its technical excellence, it brilliantly captures the transition from going out of dark and eerie outdoors that are full of mystery inside the lively, positively charged crowd of people enjoying a game, only then to come out to the vastness of night, no pun intended, once again. Brilliant play on the audience's emotion, making us expect for something unexpected to happen. The biggest achievement of this movie is creating an intense atmosphere in which we as audience are constantly being fed bits of information on where the signal is coming from and what it could mean for the inhabitants of this little town. Sometimes silence purposefully makes us gasp for air as we sit in anticipation of a big revelation. The darkness of a background made me always want to look at it, trying to make out of what could be hiding in the shadows. And of course, the main contribution to see such eerie environment is the narrative style of the movie. Not only this is extremely unique for a movie industry in general, this is done so well in this anti-blockbuster movie that you start to eventually let go of this constant desire for more action. I'm not gonna spoil much about what kind of narration is in this movie, but the way it's presented is both horrifying and fascinating. But for some people, it for sure may get a little bit too weird. I completely understand that, especially the ending of the film. Some things for sure could be done better though in this micro-budget film. Don't get me wrong, this is not a perfect movie. Some dialogues were unnecessarily long, especially in the first 10 minutes of the film, although I do understand that the director was trying to establish the main protagonists. Also, sometimes the picture was a bit too filtered and looked like an insta-filter or something, but fortunately this was just a couple of shots in the movie. My main gripe though with the film is its Twilight Zone-esque style, where in fact the whole movie looks like an episode of a horror anthology series. Not only this just doesn't bound well with the plot of the movie, it takes you out of the reality of the story. There would be some intense scenes in the middle of the film where suddenly the picture goes black and white, imitating an old television show. This took me out of the suspense, as if reminding me that I'm watching fiction. I think this movie would have definitely done better without such stylistic choices. But that's about it, to be honest. The movie is truly high-end, anti-blockbuster indie product that only leaves you longing for more. And the question remains, why do we need such anti-blockbuster movies? Well, first of all, we generally do need great movies. We don't often see such brilliant cinematography in blockbusters these days. I mean, yes, sure, we do see some amazing battles, chases, destructions, but sometimes limited resources call for unlimited creativity. You don't need to go big to be great, and this movie proves just that. Blockbusters take a long time to make, but movies like this could dominate the cinema if given enough chances to get exposure. And this is truly a problem. Do you know how many film festivals refuse to screen this film? I mean, just look at this list right here. I'm all but baffled about this fact. Why? What is possibly the reason not to include such an incredible indie film in a festival that is designed to bring out talent like this? This is highly disheartening and should be spoken about in order to highlight the importance of small filmmakers and their potential talents. After all, Taika Waititi started with small anti-blockbuster comedies and now is directing big action movies with many unique twists to them. Just look at the likes of Thor Ragnarok and Jojo Rabbit. This is how we populate Hollywood with quality and talent. I do hope that this is what happens to the director of The Vast of Night and in general to filmmakers of his caliber. We do need more anti-blockbusters before the industry becomes overpopulated with films on a $200 million budgets with repetitive stories. But what about you guys? Do you think we need more anti-blockbuster movies? Or should we play it safe and continue to watch the movies that deliver the biggest punches in the cinema? I want to hear your opinion. Also, let me know if you enjoyed The Vast of Night. If you enjoyed this video and would like to be a part of this movie community, please subscribe, hit the like and the bell button so that you don't miss out on the new videos. I publish them every Monday, so make sure to come back to this channel next week. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I hope to see you in the next one.